You're tuned into the Fresh Ice Hockey Podcast, brought to you by Zeno Pucks. Here are your hosts, Andy and Brian Matusi.
Welcome back to the Fresh Ice Hockey Podcast, presented as always by Zeno Pucks. Brian and Andy here with you today, and we are working our way through round two. So far, so good. All these games have been pretty exciting so far. The series I've probably watched the least of has been Carolina-Washington, admittedly, but so far it's been pretty fun. We had some series, specifically the last 2 days, where I was wondering if we were going to see some 3-0 series leads early on, but not the case. Everything is either nobody's up 3-0. Let's put it that way. But before we get into playoffs, we got a couple things we just need to go over real quick, Andrew. So let's get right to it. We learned the other day that the Utah Hockey Club is going to be the Utah Mammoth, which they go ahead.
Literally mere hours after we got done recording.
Yeah, I was everybody had heard the rumblings last week after their little snafu on YouTube, which I ultimately think is what led them to announce this now instead of at the draft or whatever. But nonetheless, the logo looks pretty sharp. I have seen some people compare it to like an EA Sports Hockey League logo, but all in all, the logo is actually good. If you look into the design, the part of the head being shaped like the state of Utah, then the Wasatch Mountain Range in the background, the tusk being shaped like the U, obviously, for Utah. And so overall, the design's good. I really wish it would have been the Mammoths, but they seem set on not doing plurals for whatever reason. It was going to be the same thing if they would have gone with the Yeti instead, or if they could have gone with it. I do think Mammoth, now that we've seen it, is probably the best name. I think Outlaws. I liked the name Outlaws, but I think Mammoth works better with the history behind it and everything like that. So they touch up their Utah branded logo and keep that on the away jersey, and then they spruce up the home jersey as well with the fonts and everything like that on the back. So altogether, I think it looks great. What are your thoughts?
I love it. I like the name Mammoth. As far as the whole plural thing goes, it could have gone either way and I would have been fine, but this is just my personal opinion. I think Mammoth has a better ring to it than Mammoths. So just as far as aesthetics go, I like Mammoth. The logo looks great. I could definitely could see why people think it looks like an EA Sports Hockey League logo. But overall, with the mountains inside of the Mammoth, I think it's all around cool logo. I think it's a good brand for them. And sounds like the fans like it too. I've seen a lot of people that are salty that it's not Outlaws, but most of them aren't even Utah fans anyway, so who gives a shit?
I was going to say, ultimately, the fan vote was what determined this, and more people voted for Mammoth than anything else. So a good chunk of people clearly were in favor of this.
Yeah.
And bad time to take a swig.
Yeah, dude, I thought you were going to make a longer sentence than that. My fault.
No, so I mean, I think they probably would have been fine had they gone with Outlaws or kept it as HC or whatever. Like, they could have done good branding anyways, but I think Mammoth is a good fit for them. So now it's nice. I'm really glad they didn't go with HC. I would have lived with it, but I would not have liked it. So I'm glad they didn't stick with that, because it just seemed kind of underwhelming and not very creative. So let's move on here real quick over to Anaheim. So the Ducks officially announcing that they have hired Joel Quennville to be the franchise's next head coach. Obviously, the history there with the Blackhawks and everything that happened during his tenure with the Hawks. There have been so many talking head shows and podcasts and radio shows that have gone back and forth on this debate. I'm not really here to get into that side of it. Obviously, everybody knows what happened with the Kyle Beach situation years ago with the Blackhawks. We're not here to dive into that further, but as far as purely from a hockey standpoint, this is a good hire as far as the skill. This is a coach who was well renowned for his ability to develop young talent into superstar players, and the Ducks kind of have that situation going right now. They have a lot of young stars with a lot of potential. You think of guys like McTavish and Carlson and even Zegras, if they can get his game straightened out, and Troy Terry, and they have one of the best young goalies on the planet, Mukas Dostal. Like, this is a budding young franchise, and they're now going to be led by a coach who is known for turning young talent into superstar players. So from a purely hockey standpoint, I think this is a great move for the Ducks. And again, as far as the history with the Kyle Beach stuff, it seems like it's largely been rectified. And I think Frank Saravalli made the best point in saying, look, he did his time, took his punishment for his involvement, so to speak, with the Kyle Beach incident. But he ultimately wasn't the one who committed the sexual assaults. And it sounds like his knowledge of the situation was very limited. He was aware something happened, but I don't think he was aware to what extent, is from what I've heard on all these shows. So I'm not going to be here to dig into what happened. I mean, Lord knows enough shows have done that by now, but from a purely hockey standpoint, this seems like the best hiring that the Ducks could have made.
Yeah, I'm with you 100% on that. I don't think I could have said it much better myself either. I mean, we all know he wasn't directly involved in the scandal. I mean, he was involved enough that there had to be discipline for it, obviously, but he wasn't directly involved. So, and regardless, he owned it. He came in, he took his punishment like a man. I think this is a guy that still deserves to coach in the NHL. And now that the Ducks have him, I'm willing to bet we'll see this team do a 180. I would almost guarantee it. If there's a coach out there that you want to turn a young team around, Joel Quennville is that guy, and he's got the track record and the resume to prove it. So I think this is a great hire for Anaheim, and if you're a Ducks fan, you got a lot to look forward to, because this guy knows his shit, and he's a phenomenal coach.
Yeah, and truly, Stan Bowman's been back in the league now for a while, but is GM of the Oilers, which from a hockey standpoint has not been great for them because he didn't do shit to fix their awful goaltending, which we'll get to. But he's been back in the league. There was not nearly the outrage when he came back as there has been for Quennville, which kind of confuses me. But again, I'll leave that aside. We know what's happened in the past. We're going to move past it. Again, purely from a hockey standpoint for the Ducks, this should be a big move. So, and if we're talking purely from a hockey standpoint, let's talk about a couple teams who are didn't have the finish to the season that they would have liked, and they are both handling it very differently. So I want to start real quick with the Devils. We actually just talked about it, how I thought they should run it back with this same group because they were just so banged up. Tom Fitzgerald, GM of the team, came out and said that they're going to look to make a big shakeup this offseason, as they didn't believe this group had what it takes to get it done. I don't think that's the case, but again, I'm not in charge of the team. I'm not a GM, so clearly he sees something that most of us don't see. I think they should run it back with the same group. There's enough talent there. However, the injuries expose the lack of true depth for the team, so I can understand that. But I think some additions are needed. I don't think changing the fundamental structure of the team is what's needed here, but it'd be fascinating to see where the Devils go from here.
You kind of took the words right out of my mouth, almost verbatim. I don't think that there's anything you need to tweak here. I think you need to give this exact team another chance with a healthy roster and see what happens. And we kind of touched on this last week when we were talking about Sheldon Keefe as the head coach. It's like you can't really gauge how this team's actually going to perform under him when they didn't have a healthy roster for 90% of the season. So I think this is a team you try again this coming season and see where you end up, provided everybody stays healthy. Then you can more accurately gauge, all right, maybe we do need to make some adjustments, or hey, maybe this team's an absolute juggernaut when they're healthy. You just don't know. So I wouldn't be making changes just yet. I think it's too early to call.
Yeah. Now, on the other side of the coin, there's a team who had a not great season whatsoever, just an awful season as far as expectations and results go. The Buffalo Sabres, who have elected to run it back with the same group, the same exact group, and they're going to bring in Eric Stahl to be a special advisor or assistant to the GM. This is a mess. They're not firing Lindy Ruff. They're going to keep Kevin Adams as the GM. This is a team that hasn't done jack shit to develop in the last several years. The expectations have grown each year, and the result on the ice has been piss poor. If there was ever a time to go for a big shakeup, you clear the front office, you clear out the coaching staff, and you bring in, again, full reset in the office, and then you tweak the lineup as well. There's a lot of good players on the Sabres, and they should not be as bad as they are, and they should not be missing the playoffs. But to run it back with this same group is pretty pathetic. And again, I have no sympathy because I think Terry Pagula is one of the worst owner in sports. I don't feel bad that we are a football show. I don't feel bad that the Bills haven't won jack shit with Josh Allen. I agree, he's one of the most talented QBs of this generation for sure, and he's a great player. But I don't feel even the slightest bit bad. I laugh every time the Bills get eliminated from the playoffs. I laugh at every Sabres loss, and it's not to dump on the fans or the city. It's to dump on one of the laziest, most pathetic owners in sports history. So I don't feel bad. And the fact that he's okay with the Sabres just running this thing back as it is a total indictment of what a worthless owner this guy is. I mean, any owner worth their money would have either sold the team by now to somebody who gives a shit or cleaned house so he could bring in people that do give a shit. And that's clearly not Terry Pegula. And I don't think it ever will be. I mean, we've talked before, like, again, with the Bills, until they got Josh Allen, what the fuck had they done in decades? So I'm over this crap with the Pegulas, and it's just a tire fire watching the Sabres, and the fact that they're going to run this back is just such a pathetic joke. And you feel for the fans because it's a very passionate market, even though it's the smallest market in the NHL. It's a very, very passionate fan base that deserves better, but they'll never get it under this idiot that owns the team.
Yeah, and every season I'm just like, it's a rhetorical question, but I always say the same thing. What the fuck is going on in Buffalo, man? We know what the problem is, and it's not on the ice. I mean, I mean, at the end, it is on the ice, but there's things causing it on the ice, and it really comes down to the front office and the ownership too.
Lindy Ruff's not a good coach anymore.
Well, I do agree.
He was a great coach, yes, but he's not a good coach anymore. He's just not, and that's okay. He was a great coach for a long time.
But what I'm saying is this isn't a player issue. You have good players on that team, and they've had good players on this team in the last 14 years who every time they leave Buffalo and go to another team, they have instant success as far as how their stats improve every season, what they look like on the ice. Some of them go on to win championships, Kyle Okposo. So now, before I get dry for that, yes, I'm aware the Panthers didn't win the Stanley Cup because of Kyle Okposo. What I am saying is, though, he fit in real nice on that Panthers team. But you look at guys like Jack Eichel, Sam Reinhart, like all these guys that leave and go on to have successful careers. So someone's like, is it something in the water in Buffalo? No, it's the ownership in Buffalo. And I don't know
how. If you ask Kevin Adams, it's because there's no palm trees there. That's what he said verbatim.
No, it's bullshit. So, I mean, it's also in Buffalo, which I don't know if you've ever been through Buffalo like I have. It's a depressing place. So it could be that too. However, I will say that as an owner, I don't know how you can go through a 14-year playoff drought and just be like, this is fine.
Yeah.
So and not just be like this if I do absolutely nothing to try and change it. That's what's blowing my mind. And the fans just keep sitting there every year, season after season, just taking this kick in the nuts. And they still keep showing up to games that, I mean, not like they're selling out the arena, but I'm like, how is this team even drawing fans right now with an ownership group that doesn't even give a fuck?
Yeah, it's pathetic. And again, the thing that kills me is there's just better options out there. I don't know where they go as far as the GM search. The GM searches always fascinate me because sometimes just these names come out of left field where you're like, I didn't even know that guy would have been considered for a job like this. But like the coaching search, Mike Sullivan was available. Joel Quennville was available. Jay Woodcroft is still out there. Like there are plenty of guys that they could have fired Lindy Ruff and brought in to be an actual good coach. And look at Lindy's tenure with the last few teams he's been the coach of. It really hasn't been going his way for the better part of the last decade. So I don't really know what's going on with the Sabres, but there's been options out there for them. And again, I'm not saying there was the greatest options, like Jay Woodcroft has been a popular one in the head coaching vacancy search. And I'm not saying he's the best coach, but he's better than whatever the hell Lindy Ruff brings to the table. Mike Sullivan too. Now it sounded like Sullivan was set on going to the Rangers, but I'm just saying there are better candidates out there. And the fact that the Sabres haven't, first of all, fired Lindy Ruff, and began a coaching search is already bad enough. But again, with all these names out there, and there's still plenty of coaching vacancies. Like for me, and the Blues did a great job of this, getting fired Drew Bannister and bringing in Monty. But if I'm the Sabres, when the Bruins fired Jim Montgomery, first of all, it's a team within your division. You fire your coach and go get that guy immediately because he's the best coach, and you bring him in, and that's a perfect match right there. And again, it all comes down to, does the guy want to go there or not? But man,
bring in Rick Tocchet.
Yeah, Yeah, please bring in Rick Tocchet.
Dude, he'd be a great coach there.
So I don't know. I mean, we continue to dump on the Sabres, and like I said, it's not to shit on the city and it's not to shit on the fans, but I just have no problem laughing at Terry Pegula's misfortunes. He's rich beyond his wildest dreams, but he's so inept at owning a franchise, and I don't feel bad that the Bills keep getting embarrassed in the playoffs, and I don't feel bad that the Sabres keep making the playoffs because I don't want this guy to get anything good because he keeps screwing it over his own city. So you know what? I don't care. They're building a new stadium for the Bills, and you know what? What are they going to do there? Watch them lose in every AFC championship game? Congratulations. You know, what are they going to do if they renovate the – I don't even remember the name of the arena the Sabres play in. But it's so what? Right now it's a second home arena for Maple Leafs fans and Red Wings fans. So, yeah, it's stupid. I don't feel bad for the Pegulas, but I do wish they would either sell the team or bring in management that gives a fuck about winning because it's pretty annoying. It's like they've taken over being the Coyotes now that the Coyotes moved to Utah.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, the difference is I don't think the Sabres would ever relocate.
No, they should, and they shouldn't.
No.
It's too good a market. You don't give that up. New York, it's a very passionate market. But again, you need to have an owner that gives a fuck or a management group that has any idea about how to run a hockey team because this is not it.
Yeah.
So before we spend too much time on the Sabres, we should hear from our friends over at Xenopucks, and then we'll talk about the 4 playoff series we have going on. So we'll be right back, and we will get to the playoff series. This is the Fresh Ice Hockey Podcast.
It's hockey season, and you're looking to work on your stick handling or maybe even your shot, but ice time just isn't an option for you right now. Luckily, our buddies over at Xenopucks have got you covered. They've developed an elite off-ice practice puck that, in addition to looking like the real thing, is the same size and weight as a regulation hockey puck to give you that authentic feel on the end of your stick. It works better than other off-ice practice pucks on almost any surface, whether you use it on hardwood, carpet, concrete, or even asphalt. Xenopucks glide like a real puck on ice. So if you're looking to improve your game without setting foot on the ice, head over to www.xenopucks.com and get yourself a puck. Check out their merch selection and be sure to follow them on Instagram at Xenopucks. All right, welcome back. Thanks as always to our good friends over at Xenopucks. Steve, Carter, hope you guys are doing well. Before we carry on and talk about the playoffs, I just want to say something that I wanted to say at the beginning of the show and forgot, and that is that as we record today, it is Sunday, May 11th, or more commonly known as Mother's Day. So happy Mother's Day to all the wonderful mothers out there and the hardworking moms who set the example for all of us to be good people in this world, especially to ours as well. We love all of you, and we appreciate all of you very much.
Yep. Definitely. And what's funny is but right before we started recording, I was looking at Instagram and they were asking players, fill in the blank, a hockey mom, being a hockey mom means blank. And all the guys would, were kind of saying similar things of, making sacrifices, getting the kids to the rink, being there for you every game, good and bad. One guy said that being told by your mom how bad you smell after every game. But all the moms, not just sports moms, but all moms out there. Yeah. And enjoy this day. It's all about you. And hopefully your families all celebrate you and the hard work that you do. All right. Now, speaking of hard work, let's move and talk about these 4 playoff series we have going on. So we'll start out west, the Jets and the Stars. The Jets finally fully healthy. The Stars just missing Miro Heiskanen now, which I shouldn't say just missing Miro Heiskanen. That's one of the best defenders on the planet. But really, really good series so far. For game 1 was real close, but again, you just playoff rant, and right now he's just on an absolute heater. Just an unbelievable game from him again after he follows up game 7 against the Avalanche with an incredible game 1 in this series. And then obviously the Jets pick up the shutout in game 2. That was huge for Connor Hellebuck. He had a good game 1, I thought, but they don't walk away with the win. So it's hard to take moral victories in a playoff series. And most of these guys will tell you that, but to show up in game 2, the whole team shows up. They put in 4 goals, and Hellebuck shuts the door with a couple of really good saves. So for him, hopefully it's a sign his confidence is building. For the Stars, it's like, you take the split against a higher seeded team. Now you come home with a chance to pull the series in your favor. You get last change, you get all the matchups you want, and a team as good as Dallas, I think, will do a good job exploiting those matchups when they get them. Not that the Jets are a team you can just pick apart, but the Stars showed last round that they're as resilient as anybody. So I think going home now with a split, even as good as Hellebuck was in game 2, I know they're coming off the loss, but to walk away with the split and now home ice is essentially in their favor. I think this series is so up for grabs still, but Dallas has really done a good job getting themselves in a spot to walk away with this one if they can pounce on home ice.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm going to come on here and own what I said last week on the show. And Brian, you told me I was going to be wrong. But for those of you that didn't catch it, I came on here last week and said that Dallas was going to sweep Winnipeg. And Brian said, boy, that is a hot take. And I said, no, it's not. It's fully possible. Well, 2 games in, and it already didn't happen. So I will take the fact that I was wrong. I low-key knew I was going to be, but I just wanted to throw a take out there and see what stuck. So, yeah, anyway. But, like
I said, Stars in 5 or maybe 6. But, the thing was, again, as good as Dallas had been playing leading into this, and again, as they started with the win in game 1, I mean, it's taken Mikko Rantanen going on the heater of all heaters the last 4 games or whatever for them to be in this position. So you just had to figure the dam, not that the dam would break per se, but eventually you'd slip up a little bit. Again, as far as overall talent, these 2 teams are a little more evenly matched. I still can't believe they beat Colorado, but these teams are a little more evenly matched. But again, just with how hot Mikko Rantanen's been, and it was just enough to get him out of the first round. That's the thing, is we observed how incredible and historical Rantanen's last few games have been, and it was despite that, they still barely squeaked through to round 1, and then they eke out the win in game 1 of this series. So you just knew that it was coming eventually where they wouldn't have that all-time perfection performance. And here we are now, again, the Jets with a huge win on home ice. They just looked like the building was buzzing, the party outside was buzzing, the players on the ice, all the lines were going. They looked really responsible defensively. When they had some lapses, Hellebuck slammed the door shut. So to me, I really hope this goes 7. I'd love to watch these teams beat the crap out of each other for 5 more games. And so we'll see where it goes.
I would agree with you on that. And I will say, I did say this last week, but I just want to reiterate it. Winnipeg winning this series, I think you brought up a good point about how Dallas squeaked into this series, but in a sense, so did Winnipeg. I mean, they both went 7 games, but what I want to say is what Winnipeg's success in this series is going to largely depend on Hellebuck being the Vezina goaltender he's capable of being. If you don't get that, you don't get a series win out of this if you're Winnipeg. So it falls largely on the shoulders of Connor Hellebuck. So we'll see how that goes. But I agree with you. I think this would be a great series to watch go 7 games.
Yeah, it would be fascinating to watch. You wonder how long it's going to be until they get Heiskanen back. And let's see, everything I've seen here. Yeah, it looks like Heiskanen will miss game 3 as well. So we'll see what happens. I mean, who knows? Again, a long series, he could come back, and that makes all the difference for Dallas if he can get back in the lineup. I mean, that instantly makes them the favorites to win the series. But time will tell, and all we can do is wait and see what happens in these games. But it'll be exciting. Again, I'm interested to see how Dallas can hold the fort on home ice.
I concur.
Let's move over to the Vegas and Edmonton series. So the Oilers, just on an absolute rip. Winners of 6 in a row, including the first 2 in this series on the back of Calvin Pickard. From my understanding, I didn't see anything like broadcast out there, but doing a little digging, it seemed like Calvin Pickard was hurt, which is why he was not available for game 3, and he will also not be available for game 4. Stuart Skinner gets the nod last night for the Oilers. Doesn't look great. I think every goal he let in was a soft one, really. The Oilers offense, first of all, is just unbelievable. I mean, they are playing like they can beat anybody, which is good. And you know what? Hats off to Connor McDavid, who said at the start of this postseason, everybody's looking at us like we're just, I don't remember what his exact words were, but they were basically looking at him like they were dead men walking. And he's like, no, we were banged up, sure, but we're going to be, it's playoffs. We'll be ready to go every night, ready to play. And they have been, and they won a series, and they were up 2-0 in this. But last night, Stuart Skinner, cost them the game, allowing a Riley Smith buzzer beater with 0.3 seconds on the clock. First of all, great play by Riley Smith. If you didn't watch it, the Oilers turn the puck over. Smith takes it, dances around two defenders, and then pulls Skinner like 6 feet out of his own net, reaches just to the side of him, and is able to slide the puck or shoot the puck towards the net. It goes off Leon Draisaitl, hits the net cam, and it's a goal, and it cost the Oilers the game. What I did not like about this is, and I took a screenshot of it because I thought it was really just the most pathetic thing. After the game, Stuart Skinner quoted, "That's a goalie's job to give your team a chance to win every night. I thought I did, but it's a couple of tough bounces here and there." Now, the first thing I don't like about this, first of all, is he doesn't. Usually, hockey players specifically are very, very good at shouldering the blame. And any guy on any team will do it. Will say, oh, we've got to be better at this or that. And Skinner's right in saying that, yes, the goalie's job is to give the team the chance to win a game. I don't believe he did. I'm sorry, 4 goals on 20 shots against is not giving your team a chance to win the game. Now, granted, one of those was essentially a game, it was the game winner, and might as well have been an OT winner because it was as time expired. But even still, you take that goal away. 3 goals on 23 shots isn't enough to give your team a chance when your save percentage is that low in the playoffs against his team as good as Vegas. That's just not true to say that he gave them a chance. The Oilers gave him a chance to win that game, and he blew it. They pressed in the beginning. He did hold the fort a little bit in the second and third periods as the Oilers offense didn't do much, but he didn't have to face a ton of shots either. So I thought his performance was lackluster. But to say that he gave them a chance is straight up not true, and to not accept the blame for being so unbelievably out of position on the winning goal is just a joke. So I hated that take. I hated his attitude. His body language really sucked. I think the Oilers can still win this series, but Vegas snatching victory from the jaws of defeat there. I mean, I thought for sure that game was going to go to OT after the Oilers tied it, and with the way the building was buzzing, I'm like, no chance Vegas wins this game. And they come back, and all of a sudden now it's a 2-1 series, and yeah, game 4 is still in Edmonton, so the Oilers could walk away from this up 3-1. But I'll tell you what, man, not having Pickard is hurting them because Skinner looks tough out there. Every goal he allowed, he looked like he was awful on. So you look at the quote that Stuart Skinner gives, and you just, again, the lack of taking responsibility bothers me. Again, he was awfully out of position on the tying goal, but I didn't like him on the Nick Waugh goal either, where he's got his back up against the post, reaching behind himself, and the puck is already sliding out of his own, out from underneath his ass, and then they just toss it in. His lack of awareness in net just really bugged me, and to not take responsibility after a piss poor performance like that when the team was buzzing and rallied late after struggling through a good chunk of the game, I will admit, but they start buzzing late. McDavid with an unreal goal, which I didn't like Aiden Hill on either, but again, it bounces off someone in front. Not a ton you can do on that, I suppose, but I hate when goals like that go in from the wall on the goal line. But for Skinner to just be so far out of position, you have guys in front defending. And again, I know Smith fakes the one shot at the end and gets both defenders to slide, but how late it is in the game, there's no reason for Skinner to come off the post that hard to challenge that. Smith is going so far wide that he doesn't have enough time to cut back in and make a move and shoot. So all your job as a goalie should be to do at that point is to hug that post and close up the gaps to the outside, because Smith has no room to shoot then. Instead, he comes out, Smith dangles around him and just throws it at the net, and it goes in. So I hated everything about it from him. His positioning sucked. The timeliness of those goals sucked. The 3-2 goal that Vegas scored was very poorly timed. It was late in the period, and obviously the Smith game winner couldn't have come at a worse time for them. So just the overall lack of responsibility was pretty pathetic, I thought. And the Oilers are still very much in the driver's seat in this series, but all of a sudden their guy that won them 6 games in a row can't play, and now Vegas gets a win, and there's a pulse there again. And all of a sudden they could walk out of this. They could walk out of Edmonton with a tied series instead of being down 3-0 or, being down swept or being down 3-1. I mean, there's a chance here for Vegas now.
Yeah, there's a chance. But my whole thing is, I said last week, and I said it in much nicer terms, but Stuart Skinner's a bum. That's the only way to pretty much put it. And for him to come out and say some shit like that is absolutely ridiculous to me. He looked like shit. And I know I'm a Panthers fan, and I know how Bob's been playing, but we'll dive into that later because I'll own that. But everybody's usually pretty humble, and for him to have the audacity to say that he truly believes he gave that team a chance to win that game is absolute asinine to me.
Yeah.
I mean, truthfully, he's lucky that Vegas didn't blow him out of the water that game. If I'm being completely honest.
The other thing of this is too, Draisaitl got a lot of flack for just having a stick out front there and it going off his stick. You know, if Stuart Skinner would just stay in his fucking net right there, Draisaitl's never in the crease and that puck doesn't go in. Now, this could all be for nothing. That game could have gone to overtime and Vegas could have scored off the opening faceoff. You never know. You don't know. You don't know what the alternate universe is where they tie this game or where they win this game in overtime or whatever happens, goes to OT. It doesn't matter. The point is he's so out of position, and the lack of that shit just irritated me so much when I saw that comment. I'm like, you did not play nearly well enough to be avoiding responsibility for this. I mean, your backup came in and won 6 straight games, and I'm not saying Calvin Pickard was perfect, but again, making timely saves. His numbers haven't been outstanding, but the one number that is outstanding is 6-0, which he is in the playoffs. So Skinner, who is now 0-3 in the playoffs, should not be making any comments about giving his team a chance to win, because all he's done in the 3 games he's played is cost his team the game. So it's just irritating. I hate when guys can't take responsibility. If you suck, you suck. It happens, but own it. Own the suck.
Yeah.
And again, for Vegas, I haven't been thrilled about Adin Hill's play. I really haven't. When we obviously planned to do this show today, I was really envisioning this being an Adin Hill slam piece because I have not liked his play all playoffs. It was just enough to get him past the Wild. And it just has not been good enough against the Oilers. And it's going to need to be if they're going to win the series. Look, Vegas won this game, but don't make a mistake. They're still down in the series. There's still a lot of work for them to do. So I don't want to talk about this like the Oilers are on their deathbed, but you go from being on the verge of a sweep to now this team can get back and tie the series next game. It's a completely different outlook now. So I don't think Adin Hill's been great. But I think Vegas's team play has been much better. And again, now they have a pulse. They got the momentum a little bit. Now they have a chance to tie things up. So while Vegas is still not in the lead in this, or don't even have it tied up, they really did themselves a huge favor not letting this one get away.
I agree. But now if you're Vegas, while Stuart Skinner is playing, because Calvin Pickard's going to be out at least one more game, you've got to get this next dub and at least tie this series up to give yourselves a chance. Because dude, if they go down 3-1, I know that everyone's like, oh, 3-1 leads get blown a lot in sports. Yeah, I know. But most of the time they don't. So you don't want to go down 3-1. So you really have to seize this opportunity with Pickard being out. Take advantage of Stuart Skinner being in net, or not being in the net, I should say. And get this dub, and tie this series up, and give yourself a chance.
All right, well, that's enough dumping on those teams. We're going to move out east. So Carolina, Washington, I admittedly have not watched much of this series, but
I have.
From everything I can tell, it looks like this is Carolina's series to lose at this point. I mean, they're in the driver's seat. They're up 2-1. Now they're going to be they have game 4 is at home for them still, so they have a chance to really put a stranglehold on this quickly. And again, this isn't even the start of the trial period for the Hurricanes, because we all know they got to get it done in the conference final. They have to at least make the Stanley Cup final for me to even bother talking about them, because it's just not. I've seen the movie too many times now. First of all, I still don't believe they will win this series, but they have a chance to put a stranglehold on it and prove me wrong. But again, none of it matters until they make the final, or at least win a fucking game in round 3. So right now, though, they're doing everything right, though. They got good goaltending out of Freddie Anderson, which is rare. It is rare, yes, but it's vital to their playoff success, given that they just don't seem to have that killer scoring instinct in the playoffs. So I think his play is going to be paramount to any kind of success they're going to have. But his health too, it's such a wild card. But we'll see how it goes. Washington's definitely got some work to do. I think that if there's a team capable of coming out of a 3-1 hole, if they go down 3-1, I think Washington is certainly near the top of that list. They just have been an all vibes team this season, and I think there's nothing they're afraid of. They have that moxie of, hey, nobody expected us to even be close from here, and we're just rattling off win after win. So yeah, they're down now, but I wouldn't be surprised to see them come back and take this thing.
Well, so far, one thing I've seen that they're afraid of is winning faceoffs.
Yeah.
Puck possession is everything in this game, regardless of what everybody says. I hate the argument. You don't need faceoff wins to win a game. Correct, but it fucking helps. Again, puck possession is everything. They've been real sloppy on the faceoff. I just think I've watched every game this series of this Carolina-Washington series because I knew it was going to be a good series, but Washington, I know they're only down 2-1 right now, but I think they've looked really flat, and I'm kind of surprised by that. It just, like you said, it looks like Carolina has their number right now. And granted, you and I have both talked off of this show in the past about Carolina's frauds until they get to the conference final, and we know that they're going to exit, but I thought this was going to be a hard-fought series. Washington has looked nothing like I've expected them to, at least not like they did during the regular season. And I know I always say playoff hockey is completely different than regular season hockey, but these guys were flowing during the regular season, and it looks like something's missing, like something's just slightly off with the Capitals right now, and I'm not sure what it is. But they've just looked flat. That's the best way I can describe it. And Carolina looks like they haven't missed a beat. So I think if you're Washington, you need to step it up a little bit because I did say last week, I think this series will go to Carolina, but it would be weird to me to see Washington go down without a fight.
Yeah, I think part of it too for them is that look, let's be realistic. They had the easiest first round series. They did. Montreal really didn't put up much of a fight. And I think Washington has gotten a little too comfy because, again, they just had such a good season. All the vibes were immaculate all year. They come into the playoffs, get the easiest first round matchup, and bounce the Habs in very short order. And now they're going up against a team who's a team that's built to be in the playoffs like Carolina is. Notice the phrasing, they're built to be in the playoffs, not to win in the playoffs. But I think they just maybe didn't take them serious enough, and now they've got themselves in a hole. But credit to Carolina, again, for taking advantage where you can. And again, a lot of this success they have will, unfortunately for them, rest on the shoulders of Freddie Anderson, who can't seem to stay healthy or consistent. So we'll see what happens. Again, for me, Carolina should win this series. I think Washington still will win this series. But for Carolina, again, none of it matters until they got to make the Stanley Cup final, man. This team, it just nothing. It can't be anything less than that. If they don't make it to the final, you got to blow it up.
Dude, at this point with Carolina, for me, it's just like win a fucking game in the conference final. At least they haven't even done that yet.
Hell, they didn't make the conference final last year. Talk about how well built this team is. Oh, they're so underrated every year. Cool. They got bounced by the Rangers in round 2 last year, which the Rangers were good last year. But again, built to win in the playoffs. This team is so good at shutting it down on defense, and they are. But what has that done for them?
Right.
Can't score. So I don't know. We'll see what happens with the Hurricanes and the Capitals. Again, I still feel like this is Washington series to win. But they got work to do, so we'll see what happens. I want to move now and talk about the Panthers and Leafs series, which I really think, if not for Brad Marchand saving the day, the Panthers could really be looking at an ugly scenario right now. But the all-time great Leaf killer, Brad Marchand, gets the job done. Panthers, after a real back-and-forth game the other night on Friday night, are now only down 2-1 in their series instead of facing elimination. So they're at home still. They have a chance to get the series tied up. The complexion of this one completely changed with that Marchand overtime winner.
I agree, but there's some things here that I, as both a hockey fan and a Panthers fan, that I'm not happy with so far at all during this series. Before I go into detail, I first want to give credit because I know we have Leafs fans that listen to the show, and we know how much I hate the Leafs. But before I go into detail, I have to commend the Leafs because they are a great team, and it is showing in this series. They look insanely good. Part of that's because Sergei Bobrovsky's in Swiss cheese mode right now, so you have that going for you. However, the Leafs are a good team. That's not lost on me. I did say I think the Panthers are going to roll over the Leafs in this series. I was wrong. This has the makings to go 7 games right now, especially if the Panthers can get this win at home tonight and even it up at 2-2. But so far, the Panthers have looked really weak in this series, and obviously you have Marshy, the Leaf destroyer, we know. But another thing this comes down to is goaltending, and Bobrovsky is not Vezina Bobrovsky right now. He is Mr. Inconsistent right now, where his save percentage is in the high 800s, which is, I would argue, isn't even AHL quality numbers at this point. He's not looking good. He was another one that let in 4 goals off of 20 shots the other night. It's just, there's a lot that has to go into this series. The Panthers, first of all, generally speaking on paper, are still a team that should be able to run this back and win back-to-back cups. Do I think that's going to happen? No. And at this point in the series, things could change, but I think Toronto might finally have Florida figured out right now. There's just a lot of things that aggravate me, but they do have Anthony Stolarz, who was the backup goalie for Florida last year. I think they might have Florida figured out right now, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Well, they don't have Stolarz, though, and that's the problem. Stolarz has not even began to skate again. He still has not started skating, and so for the Leafs, look, I'm with you on this. I think systematically they have somewhat figured the Panthers out, but clearly it's not enough to overcome Joseph Woll. He's been awful in these 2 games.
Absolutely,
he's just not been good enough. The Leafs, they get the win in game 2, but Woll looked shaky. I didn't like how he looked, and game 3, the Leafs looked like they were buzzing. They were up 3-1 in a game, and all of a sudden it looked like, oh boy, they're going to run away with this. And the Panthers get 2 quick ones, and all of a sudden you're tied, and it's like, now what?
You need your big guys to step up in this series, though, if you're Florida.
And Toronto, I mean, the big boys are rolling for the Leafs, but Matthews, they still can't really get him on the score sheet. But I think you're right. Systematically, the Leafs may have finally figured this out, but it's not going to do them any good if Joseph Woll's awful. It just isn't.
Oh, correct. Yeah, absolutely. So, and let's say hypothetically, Toronto wins this series, and they still don't have Anthony Stolarz back. It's going to be a quick, especially if they end up playing Carolina or Washington, which is going to be the case, obviously, if they move on. That's going to be a quick conference final if Carolina continues to play the way they have been, or if Washington is their opponent. I think it's going to be over quick. As far as Matthews not scoring, I agree that he needs to. However,
everybody else is going.
Everybody else is going, and he's still doing his part on the ice. I mean, he's still making play. He's just, he's not getting goals.
It is true. He's winning faceoffs. He is being responsible defensively, but first of all, I do want to say if the Leafs win this and play Carolina, I'm picking Leafs in 4 out of spite. But I'm so over Carolina. But yeah, no, I agree with you. It feels like if they get to the conference final, they are going to struggle with whoever they play if Woll's the goalie. Now, if they get Stolarz back, I think they'll kill either of those teams. If they're rolling like this, especially when you look at the metrics of it, if they can beat the Panthers, the defending Cup champions, the team that's had their number, they can finally exercise their Brad Marchand demons. It puts a whole different outlook on the rest of this run. But if they're going to be going at it with Woll and net, they're going to get killed, and he might cost them this whole series. And I hate when people overreact after one loss, but oh my God, has he been borderline unwatchable? He is for a guy who is so quickly on the rise, he is so quickly fallen off. And I can sympathize with the fact that he hasn't played in a few weeks, but wow, does he not even look like he's a little bit ready for this?
I agree completely. And if you're the Panthers, you need to capitalize on that. That's the other thing. You need to be utilizing this time accordingly before Stolarz comes back. And I'm not saying Stolarz is this elite goaltender. I know he's not, but he's far better than Joseph Woll is. So utilize this time that he's gone to capitalize on it and get yourself in a good position here. And one thing I just want to say to Leafs fans too, because it's like this every single season. Look, we all know the officiating and the NHL is terrible, but it's not the referee's fault every single time you lose a game. That's all I see on social media. Sometimes you just lose, and it happens. That's part of playing a professional sport. It happens. You lose. Things weren't there. Refs missed calls. In no way was the game rigged. Y'all just weren't the best team that night. Shit happens. Get over yourself.
I don't know, man. With Wes, they really got to stop letting Wes McCauley call.
I do agree with that. Yeah,
they really there's got to be a conflict of interest there. That's for me as a hockey fan. There's too much there for it to be a coincidence. there's known beef between him and Sheldon Keefe, who's no longer the coach there, but there is something between him calling Leaf games and the officiating being really piss poor against them. For what it's worth in this game, there was I forget what the play was. It was I think it was a missed high stick call that would have gone against the Leafs, where I'm like, I can't believe that they just got away with that without getting a penalty. Ultimately, it doesn't matter as the Panthers still win the game. So, again, I don't think the refs are the reason they lost this game, but boy, is it really a really strange choice to let Wes McCauley, who is already one of the league's worst refs, call this game, to call any playoff game, but to call this series. I found it very weird. And again, I'm with you. I don't think the refs are the reason they lost this game. I think their terrible goalie was the reason they lost this game, but I don't know, man. It's just weird. With the history, why, even if you don't think there's anything there, why take the chance? Stuff West in a Western Conference series, and if you feel like you need to have them. But there's anybody else I'd rather have. Wes McCauley's one of the worst refs in this league, and I cannot believe he continues to, because he makes funny penalty calls or whatever. Yeah. They continue to use this guy and think that he's a good ref, and he's not. He's just terrible. It's a joke how bad he is. But yeah, I'm with you 1,000%. I don't buy into the refs cost the Leafs this game. If anything, had the Leafs won it, they would have been the reason the Leafs won, because again, they get away with that brutal. I think it was a high stick or a cross check or whatever it was, but it was clear as day, 10 feet from the ref, and it goes uncalled. I'm like, well, okay.
Well, and remember that goal too that snuck in that they had to review, which I forgot who played it with a broken stick
Carlo,
too, which obviously
that should have been a penalty too.
But it didn't have to be because they scored anyway. So
that's
now
true.
It would have been a delayed penalty, and then had the puck knock on in, then it should have been called. But nevertheless, so there's things all across the officiating's bad everywhere. It's not, when you lose a game, it's not always the referee's fault. Okay. Nothing's rigged against you. Just stop with the bullshit. And it's Leafs fans that do this every year. And they act like the Panthers are the dirtiest team in the league. Panthers aren't even close to the dirtiest team in the league. I ain't gonna lie. I know we got Marchand.
They're the second dirtiest.
Yeah, I said they got Marchand. They got Bennett. Like, look, man, I get it. But dude, just fucking chill. Sometimes you're just not the better team, and that's fine. 2 of these 3 games so far, the Panthers have not been the better team, and I'll be the first to admit it. They've looked like shit. Mostly Bobrovsky, but nevertheless, I don't want to just... Look, I could go for 2 more hours on this. My biggest point is here. Look, you got Joseph Woll in the net for Toronto tonight. Panthers need to capitalize. You need to get this win tonight, because if you go back to Toronto down 3-1 in the series, it's over for you, and Toronto's moving on. I promise.
You know, outside of the Stars and the Jets, I really don't think any of these goalies have been great.
No, none of them have. And I was kind of surprised with when I was in when I was watching Washington and Carolina. I mean, for Freddie Anderson's actually been playing better, which was surprising to me, but he needs to maintain that. He really stood on his head last night. Logan Thompson, kind of surprised given what we saw out of him during the regular season.
He's been pedestrian.
Yeah, so I don't know. The goaltending is kind of weird right now, but playoffs are always weird. You never truly know what you're going to get in the playoffs. So,
well, and we mentioned it before. Skinner and Nathan Hill have both been awful. And Pickard, despite being 6-0, has had a god awful save percentage. But for him, it's all about the timeliness of the saves. That's been the difference maker for them. I also buy into the belief that the Oilers do play a much more structured defensive game when he's in net.
They also have the best player of all time on their team.
Yeah, I was going to say it helps. When the Oilers tied that game up, I couldn't believe how intense McDavid was on that shift. I mean, he had like 4 good chances, and his worst chance was the one that went in. Yeah. So I thought that was kind of ironic, but yeah, the goaltending's just not been anything exciting. Like I said, Stolarz, who's not playing right now, was pretty good in round 1. He was. Woll's been awful. Bob has not been good in this series for the Panthers. I mean,
no.
They're very fortunate to be where they are right now, but the same thing could be said for the Leafs. They could be the team down 2-1 as well. I mean, Woll, he hasn't been good enough. He hasn't. And even in game 1, he comes in and boy, do they just escape with that one. I mean, yeah. He's not been good. He hasn't. None of these goalies really have, except for Ottinger, who even in round 1, he had to weather the storm a bit. Hellebuck, who looking like the last 3 games, like he's starting to finally collect himself. But until then, he was looking rough. I don't know what it is with the goalies, and Vasilevsky, who's one of the best goalies in the world, round 1 looked awful. I mean, it was a mess.
Yeah, I agree. But back to what I said, you know what you're up against tonight. If you're Florida, you're still on home ice. Even up this series, now nothing in the past matters. Now it's a best of 3 series going back to Toronto. See what you can do from there. But I have a feeling I'm going to be very pissed off on next week's episode of this show. I would bet money on it at this point. I think Toronto's got Florida figured out.
Well, only time will tell. But until then, we are going to part ways with you lovely listeners. So let's the one thing we can say that is a good thing, because I feel like the energy on this whole show has just been bitchy and negative.
It sure has, man. It's been an angry episode.
That's what I get for including the Sabres in this. From the outset, it was doomed from the start because we were going to talk about the Sabres and the stupid Bagulas. But we'll say this is messy as a lot of these games have been. These playoffs have been very exciting. The games have been very intense. It never feels like any game is over until it's over. So from that standpoint, as a hockey fan, look, it's been great. It really has. It's been intense. This is what you should want from the playoffs: the unpredictability, the chaos, the crazy storylines, the historic performances from Rantanen. Like, that's the kind of stuff we should be looking for. So as much as we've dwelled on all the shit that has not been good about the playoffs and about the league, there is a lot of upside to this. These matchups are intense. They're unpredictable. It's total chaos. And, I wish my team was still in it, but now that they're not in it, it's fun watching all these teams and all these fans just live and die with every movement of the puck. It's so fascinating and so exciting. So let's enjoy that for what it is. But, a lot's going to happen between now and next week. There's a world where most of these series are wrapped up by our next show. So we'll see what happens.
So before we do bounce out of here, we do have one question this week.
Oh, let's hear it.
It's actually a pretty good one. It's regarding a rule in the league. And if you're a diehard hockey fan, you understand this rule already. But this guy's a newer hockey fan. So we're going to read it. This comes to us from Jason in Buffalo, New York. Hey, guys.
Jason.
Well, it's okay because he's not a Sabres fan, according to this.
All right. That's what's up, Jason.
So he goes, hey, guys, newer hockey fan here. I just started watching hockey about 2 years ago. I am not a Buffalo Sabres fan, despite living in Buffalo. I root for the Ottawa Senators. Anyway, my question is, I hear them talk about teams getting the last line change. What determines that and why?
Okay, so this is first of all, great question, because it's not one that, again, unless you're a hardcore follower of the game, it's not something I guess that you would really put much mind to, because it happens. The line changes between whistles happen off camera most of the time, because they're usually showing replays or they're ISO camming one guy, so you don't really see what's going on. What this refers to is after every whistle, obviously teams are free to change lines as they see fit, get new guys out on the ice or whatever. The home team in a hockey game is given the right to make the last line change. So essentially, when the whistle goes, the refs will skate towards the benches and say, okay, the away team, put your guys out on the ice, put out whatever guys you want. And then after all their guys are set, the ref will point towards the home bench and he'll have them put their guys out. And what this does is it allows the home team, or the home coach essentially, to put out the guys he wants on the ice to match up against the away team. It's supposed to give the home team kind of a home ice advantage. It gives them the opportunity to match up the guys they best see fit to go against the competition that the away team put out on the ice. It's meant to give the home team an advantage, so to speak, but it's also to prevent a scenario where teams just never-ending cycle of switching lines until one guy finally concedes and is like, okay, you can have the better matchup. Essentially, this allows the home team to get the guys they want out there, though, but that's what they're referring to when they say last change, is that the home team, no matter what, is allowed the final opportunity to put out the guys they see fit to go up against the away team.
Beautifully said. And that's going to go. So there's a second part to this email. Now, before I read it, you just go ahead and keep your fucking ego at bay before I read it off to you, because it's about you.
Oh, God.
But he said...
It's not good, though, because I'm not smart, so I don't think my ego is going to get too crazy.
It said, in addition to getting into hockey recently, I'm just starting to snoop around the sports podcast scene, and I accidentally stumbled across your guys' podcast. I just want to throw out there that I think you guys, as two brothers who genuinely love hockey, put on a great show for everyone. Brian is extremely knowledgeable and sounds like he's been working on TV for years. Anyway, keep up the great work, guys. Look forward to many more episodes down the road. Sincerely, Jason.
Well, Jason, first of all, thank you for the compliment. I mean, our thanks to all of our fans never ends. Like our graciousness, is that the right way to say it? I mean, we're eternally grateful for everybody that listens to this show, and with all of the really good shows out there, you think of like 32 Thoughts or like the Ray and Dreg show, like they're so, our Daily Face Off. All these shows are so good, and they have these great insiders and guys who have played and stuff. So for you to take time out of your day to listen to us, we definitely appreciate it.
100%.
As far as myself, the only thing I can say to that is I went to school for radio broadcasting, so I've been formally trained to an extent on how to present myself on radio specifically. But we definitely appreciate the high regards that you hold us in. So we're very thankful you tune every week and listen to us. And like he said it himself, we just really love the game, and that's ultimately what's important to us is we get to do this. We're still learning so much about it every day. I mean, we've been following hockey now for about 11 years. So there's still so much that we know, and we're just glad people want to listen to what we have to say.
We've been
that's all I
following
can
simultaneously together at the same time. That's the definition of unison.
Yeah, that's just an old dumb joke between us. But yeah, look, we're still all trying to learn this stuff together. And I mean, there's a lot of times where I'll say something and then months later I'll think, man, I can't believe I had that take. But you know, we're all human. We all make mistakes. We're all wrong about things sometimes. So again, we're just so grateful that the listeners like Jason choose to, with all of the shows out there, that you guys have found us and listened to us and give us a reason to do this show every week. So thanks for that. And thanks for the question. And to those who haven't sent in questions, please do.
Yeah. Jason, thank you so much again. Just to reiterate what Brian said. I hate to sound like an airline flight attendant, but we know you have a choice when listening to Hockey Podcast, and we're glad that you choose Fresh Ice Hockey Podcast.
We are.
But I seriously, truly mean that. And, you know, I was out with some friends last night and we were talking about the pod. They're big hockey fans too. They go to Monsters games, and they were like, I was telling them, you know, we have a few thousand people that listen to the show. Nothing crazy, but, you know, certainly more than we expected. And one of my friends, she goes, well, according to Google, you guys are considered internet famous. I don't agree with that. Look, I'm not even going to remotely consider that thought until I'm walking down the street and I'm out in public somewhere and someone stops me and said, hey, I know who you are. Until that happens, no, we're just two regular guys in Northeast Ohio doing a hockey podcast because, well, we like to hear ourselves talk.
Yeah.
So, Jason, again, thank you so much for the question. It was a great question, by the way. And I do echo what you said regarding Brian. Very knowledgeable, does a very good job. With that being said, if you'd like to send us a question too, you can send us questions at freshicehockeypodcast@gmail.com, or the one that Jason chose, contact@freshicehockeypodcast.com. Also, make sure, if you're not already, to follow us on social media on Facebook and Instagram at Fresh Ice Hockey Podcast, as well as on TikTok at Fresh Ice Pod. Brian, you got anything left?
Nope. I'm just trying to resecure my arm on my mic stand here. I don't want it to fall and make a loud crash. But no, I just ditto everything you said with following us on social media. Please get questions in. We would love to have more listener questions on each episode. So please get those in.
And there's no such thing as a stupid question. We're happy to answer any of them.
One of my old bosses always said there's no stupid questions, just stupid people. Well, we'll be the stupid people. So you send us your questions and we'll answer them.
Absolutely. Till next time, go Panthers tonight against the Leafs. And everybody enjoy their Mother's Day and have a great week. And we will talk to you guys next Sunday.